Welcome to our presentation on environment-focused Starship redesign. Our question is, how might the future of robotics shape environmental restoration? And we're doing the project with Abby, me, Kandana, Kevin, Lillian, Fenry, Jacob, Praveen, and Nathan.
So the first thing we want to talk about is the positive impacts that robots already have on the environment. So first, they can plant trees. The company SkyGrow has developed robots that counter the effects of deforestation, which is a pretty big issue nowadays. These robots can plant trees more efficiently than people can. Robots can also monitor and reduce water pollution. For example, in Robert Fogg's 2011 article, Robots for Monitoring the Environment, he discusses how robots can be developed in the shape of fish or to monitor pollution in the water. These fish can detect oil spills, which can help close beaches sooner and can also help with cleaning efforts. Another example of reducing water pollution is the robot, which cleans ponds, but also uses the bacteria it cleans in order to power itself. And then finally, there's the Dustbot, which is a mobile trash can. It basically responds to like a signal and then goes to your house and picks up trash. This was only a prototype in places like Italy and Japan, but it still helps us understand that the robots can have a positive impact on the environment.
So another important aspect to consider is the negative impacts of robots on the environment. So from Alaren, which is a company that works with big data, they made three main arguments explaining how robots negatively impact the environment. The first one is increasing energy consumption. So as humans become more and more reliant and use robots more, there's going to be more robots, and on top of that, there's going to be more integration with daily life between robots and humans, which correlates to more daily use, and more daily use plus more robots will together increase energy consumption. The second point is a faster depletion of resources. So as technology improves and there's better robots, which leads to faster production, there's going to be more consumption of various goods, and that in turn is going to lead to more natural resource depletion, both to make those goods and to make the robots that will process that'll help with the manufacturing. And lastly, there's going to be more waste. So from the previous point I mentioned, there's going to be more consumption, which naturally is going to lead to more waste. However, on top of that, there's also going to be difficulty managing that waste and for waste management, because as robots improve technologically, there's going to be more sort of advanced waste, which is going to need more detailed ways to manage that waste.
Here's our concept for the redesign. First off, right off the bat is this more eco-friendly design to perpetuate a culture of sustainability and recycling. You can see it's been painted green and it has recycling symbols on it, even on its little antenna on that little roundish node on its side. It also has larger wheels, a very traversy, bumpy environment of trash-ridden areas. And it also has a vacuum at the bottom to the device that to consume any garbage under the system. And compartments no longer carries food, it carries trash, and there's also a really cool blueprint side profile of its concept design.
One of our biggest challenges we have with our design was solar power and how to take that into consideration, because while it did tremendously advance within the last decade or so, there are still quite a few disadvantages with the technology as of right now. According to the article Application of Renewable Solar Energy with Autonomous Vehicles by Wasim Sherwani and Shu Hayab, there are a few advantages and disadvantages of solar power. For example, solar power has barely any pollutants, so it doesn't contribute to climate change, and also it's a form of renewable energy, so it's really beneficial to the environment. However, from a design standpoint, there are a few disadvantages because it's very irregular due to weather. For example, if it's a cloudy day, then you won't get as efficient as solar power, and also it requires very large solar panels in order to be truly effective. So in order for the robot to be fully powered, it will need massive solar panels. So for our final design, we'll need a system that has both solar panels and a battery system. So it'll be able to charge with solar energy, but it'll also occasionally need to charge through an outlet in order to make sure it's on top battery once in a while.
So looking at the perception of genderless robots, focusing on the question, how will not having a gender affect perception of the robot? Gender is a large part of our society, so it's really important to make an open and unbiased approach to technology. Most people find that genderless robots help combat these sort of gender stereotypes that are present in society and that are found within everyday life. Others feel a loss of connection or like meaningful interaction with the robot if there is no gender assigned to it, because they feel like they can connect to a certain type of robot if it did have a gender. In other cases, they may not. So in context, in the influence of robot body shape on gender perception in robots piece by Jasmine Bernotat, Frederick Eisel, and Jenny Sash. According to age, ethnicity, and gender are the main social categories people use to make judgments about other humans. Similarly, these categories are even applied to non-human entities such as robots. So we can take into account that the fact our perceptions and our views of gender in general can shape our expectations and ideas for how technology actually looks based on our human selves.
So the societal perception of robots. Starting off, culture and background greatly affects the perception of robots. The various physical embodiments, level of anthropomorphism, dynamic behavior, and imitation of human-like walking or other motion pose great challenges. And in some areas, values of humility and simplicity in some cultures are viewed differently than in other parts of the world. For instance, in Japan, leisure activities are more public, whereas in places like the States, they're more private and sustained within the home. This also has to do with the fact that the housing situation in those areas are vastly different. And moreover, tasks which are dangerous, repetitive, and could be more efficient through robots are preferred irrespective. And for especially taking care of the environment, soft robots are preferred in those areas which requires handling environment with care.
So the ethics of environmental robots is a really important subject. As Van Weisenberg and coworkers wrote in their 2018 paper, The Dawning of the Ethics of Environmental Robots, the negative effect on the environment of the material and processes for degrading robots poses questions about their effectiveness to help the environment. Further, the presence of some technologies causes psychological stresses to certain species. These technologies can malfunction and cause harm and could be susceptible to dangerous hacking. This leads to further concerns about losing control of the robots. It's also possible that environments will begin to rely on robots, which would require that the robots are present there indefinitely. This could be very harmful if the robot malfunctioned and was not usable. What would the environment do then? This is why it is important to still encourage pro-environment behavior. There are two main factors that influence the pro-environment behaviors of college students. As Brett Levy and coworkers stated in their 2012 paper, Towards a Campus Culture of Environmental Sustainability, Recommendations for a Large University, many colleges have promoted sustainable behavior by supporting students' increased understanding of major environmental issues. Further displays of solar panels and sustainable building practices indirectly teach community members about environmentally sustainable procedures. Also, prompts such as science for recycling and energy conservation remind students to prioritize the environment's health.
So now discussing trash's impacts on the environment. Consumerism has caused a mass increase of waste accumulation, but the proper disposal techniques have not been advanced fast enough to keep up with the massive accumulation of waste that has been caused by consumerism. And trash waste also releases massive amounts of methane waste and gases into the environment, which has a very negative impact. One quote from a paper from 2019 by Richard Acevedo titled "How Our Trash Impacts the Environment" was that further open landfills were found to represent 91% of all landfill methane emissions, and the burning of large open piles of trash in various parts of the world emits dangerous levels of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that is heating up our. And so this is getting into the environment and really causing massive disruptions to ecosystems as animals consume trash and are harmed, and even just humanity is really affected by the pollution that's caused by the waste and accumulation of it. And so then moving into a conclusion of how might the future of robots shape environmental restoration was the key framing question for this presentation. And we highlighted how the impacts on the environment is positive, but also negative due to robots, and how the societal perception of robots from the gender aspect of robots and how a genderless robot could affect society, and then the influence on the individual and how, especially in college campuses, trash has an impact, and then on the world in general. And that is our redesign of the robot, of the Starship, and finally, our works cited with our scholarly sources that we used to really come up with this great presentation. And there's ones for how the trash impacts the environment, how robots and pollution are intertwined and connected, and then also the positive effects of environment and negative effects as well. And that is all. Thank you.